everybody, welcome to Arsenal X NGR Radio's Xbox podcast. As always, we have to throw up the X. Yes, because we're about to throw down. Jesse did throw up the X with you guys. He is in audio form, so that's why you don't see him. But we know he threw it up. If not, let's just say that he did. It's going to be another great episode. We're going to talk about what's been in our arsenal, and then we're going to get into our Arsenal exchange, where we're going to be talking about the Stadia that was announced, and what does this mean for a streaming platform, and what does this mean for Microsoft. So me and Corey kind of talked on Nintendo Power Block what we've been playing. But Jesse, what's been in your arsenal?
Well, okay, I haven't really been playing too much. I've been kind of busy. I had like a funeral that I traveled to Michigan for and stuff, and so I just kind of lately I've been kind of busy. But I did pick up Sekiro or whatever, Shadows Die Twice.
Yes, and
I've played like about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of that, and I've been really enjoying that a lot. Now this is like technically the second game that the studio has made that I've played. But I never really got into like Dark Souls or any of that stuff. Just mainly because I don't know, like the style of it and everything just wasn't for me. So this is like the first game that they've made that's really interested me a lot. And so, I finally went out and bought one of their games, and I'm not regretting it at all. Now, I got a lot of learning to do because I'm not used to their game types. Because I probably put like maybe 2 hours at most of the original Dark Souls in, and that's about as much experience as I have with their games. But I'm really liking the character in this game a lot, and like I think that's what really ultimately drew me to this game. Like seeing all the stuff was I liked the concept of the character and like the whole idea of his like arm being like, it's kind of similar to like Devil May Cry, I guess, in a way where it seems like there's going to be all kinds of different like things that you have on his arm that like different kinds of functionalities and stuff like that you'll find along the way to upgrade your character. And so like it's kind of neat, it's interesting, and and speaking of like Devil May Cry, I kind of would like to check that out, I think, at some point, but I think I was more interested in this game, as far as all the like those style of games that have been coming out or are coming out. So yeah, that's mostly what I've been playing. I haven't even been playing like Black Ops or anything really. So, which is, again, it's kind of unusual because for a while there, that's all I wanted to play.
All right.
And I did play a little Metro, I guess, too, since the last time I have been on the show. So.
Okay. For me, everybody just check Nintendo Power Block about what's been in my arsenal. So what I said there's kind of the same thing that I play here. So I'm not going to dive into anything. Corey, did you want to do the same or?
Well, I played a little bit of The Division, which we talked a little bit about on Power Block, but the Division is I was really excited for The Division, and like that initial like hour or so I was like really into it, and then it just kind of like, I don't know, it just kind of I fell back into that spot where I was like, man, this is just more Division. I don't know if this is really what I want right now, which is sad because the game is really good. I really don't have anything bad to say about the game. It's actually very polished and very well done. We all recently played The Division, the first one again, even if it was only for like a little bit, but like,
yes,
it still feels like The Division 1, and I mean there's systematic changes and stuff to it, but mechanically it's very similar. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep playing it because I really want to keep playing it. played some Anthem, which there's a few patches that have gone through since I played it last, and I don't know if it fixed anything or whatever, but like I know there were some loot changes and everything. I'm not that far to actually, be be into the end game or whatever. But I really want to keep playing Anthem. I really do. I haven't really had a lot of time to play a lot of things this week. I played a little bit of the Master Chief Collection. I played some Halo 2 and 4 multiplayer some more, but then I actually my Xbox is being repaired at the moment, so because I've been having this Wi-Fi connection issue, and it's being fixed, so hopefully I can get back rolling and on some games when it gets back. So but that's kind of, in terms of Xbox, that's kind of all I've been playing. I finished Gris on Switch, but you can listen to Nintendo Power Block for that. So that's kind of all I've been playing, really. Halo Master Chief Collection in particular is just I'm glad they stuck with it and fixed a lot of the issues, which honestly, I never really experienced a lot of the issues that people were talking about. Like, I never really had like connection issues or anything. But
well, we did a little bit when we played like the like co-op.
Yeah,
because didn't we have it like where it would kind of lag a little bit while we were playing co-op?
Yeah, that's true. But
I think that's really the only thing that I've experienced as far as connectivity.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's still fantastic. Like, honestly, I think Halo 2 and the Halo 2 Anniversary and Halo 4 look better than Halo 5 in some aspects of the game. Just like in terms of the details on the guns and the armor sets and stuff. Now, Halo 5 still looks fantastic. Like, but I would actually put Halo 4 on par with Halo 5 and maybe a little bit better in some aspects. But that's just me. I really love Halo 4, man. I love that multiplayer is really good, and I've been playing a lot of SWAT lately, and man, it's good. And the Halo 2 Anniversary stuff is also really well done. Just the HUD and stuff is very Halo 2. Like, it's big and bold and in your face, but like I was playing SWAT on Lockout the other day, or I think it's called Lockdown in Halo 2. And just the attention to detail in that level, and just the camping spots on the pipes, on the I don't know what you would call it, like in the tower on one of the ends of the map is just, it's all still there, man. Halo 2 is that, it's just, man, it feels so good to run around and play, and the physics are like, it's funny because the physics in Halo 2 are a little bit different than the rest of the games, where like you feel a little bit floatier when you jump, and I forgot that, and I went to like jump and I floated off the edge of the map because like in Halo 4 and 5 you feel more grounded when you jump, and in Halo 2 you're just like floating, and it's just like wee right off the edge of the map.
Halo 2 is still my favorite out of all the Halos, as far as like for me, like they had the best maps for multiplayer, in my opinion.
Yeah. I honestly never really got into Halo 2's multiplayer a whole lot. I was more of a Halo 1, and then I played Halo 2, but I never had Xbox Live, and when Halo 2 was super popular, I was living in a dorm room where there wasn't any like outside connections, so like I kind of missed Halo 2. I came back around for Halo 3, and I really love Halo 3's multiplayer too. So Halo 2, I used to go do LAN parties with friends. We'd go over to friends' houses, and everyone would bring their Xbox and a TV. Yeah,
and we'd just set them all up in a basement, and just there'd be like 10 of us or 15 of us just sitting in a basement, all just having fun for hours.
Yeah, Yeah, I remember those days where we would all meet over at my friend's house in their basement. We'd get like pizza and Mountain Dew and just sit around and play it. Well, for us it was Halo 1, but it was still it was still a really good time. So, but in terms of Xbox stuff, that's all I've really been playing. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Master Chief Collection because we've been talking an awful lot about it lately, and what a fantastic game! What a fantastic package, man! Yeah,
I did play Division 2 for a little bit. I forgot about that because I just had a little bit of time to play it before I had to leave for Michigan or go to bed actually. But then I think when I got back, I played it for a little bit. I mean, I played it enough where I think level 5 or something like that. But
yeah, I think I'm hovering around a level 7.
Yeah, right. So I am enjoying that a lot too. So.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to get into our Arsenal exchange. So, Google announced Stadia, their streaming platform where you could kind of play anywhere. They have a lot of different functionalities. They're going to be bringing 4K, HDR, 60 frames per second. You'll be able to play this on your mobile, on your PC, your laptop, even on your TV. So a discussion about streaming games and that being the future and stuff have been coming up. Also, it's a wireless controller, and I believe you can connect your Xbox One controller also to it. But
it's that whole the controller thing is weird, but we'll get into it in a little bit. But
yeah,
so a lot of talk about it has been like how is this going to affect the consoles, how it's going to affect PC like Steam and Epic Games, but we here are on Arsenal X. It's like how it's going to affect Project xCloud, how it's going to affect Game Pass, or like what are our thoughts first of Stadia, and then how does this affect Microsoft? Or does it work with Microsoft? Corey, I'm gonna go to you first.
I think I haven't really heard Jesse's opinions about it yet, but as far as everybody within Nerds Gone Rogue, like so far that I've talked to, I feel like I'm the only one who's like interested in it, like really like diving deep into what this could potentially be and like trying it out on day one and whatever. Like, I'm fascinated by the technology and just like how is it going to work? Like how do I like is it going to work like Netflix where like if I'm playing a game on my TV, I just hook my controller up to my phone and I can continue playing it later in like on my phone, or you know, I know anybody who has a Chrome browser can play it, and it also like I want to know that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm never going to be playing in 4K on this thing. Like, I know there will probably be settings and stuff. Like, do you want to play in 1080p? Like, I want to see, I want to know how it works. And I think the only person I know that tried the Project Stream beta for Assassin's Creed Odyssey was Todd Oxtra. And, like, he doesn't have fantastic internet. And he said it wasn't the greatest way to play that game, but you know, I think I'm really interested in this technology. I want to see how it works. I want to see how and where it goes and how it all functions. And I think that what I'm most excited about is like seeing Google do this and showing this technology makes me that much more excited for when Microsoft announces it. Because I know, like, yeah, I can have Halo Infinite installed on my Xbox Scarlet or whatever and play it there. But then, you know, through the power of xCloud, I can continue my save from there on my phone somewhere else, you know, where it's kind of like the best of both worlds, you know what I mean? And so, like, seeing this technology work for Google is like, yeah, this is awesome. But I also don't think it's going to replace anything that we're using currently, at least, you know, within the next 5 to 8 years. Like, I don't think it's going to replace anything that we're using. But I think it's going to be a nice kind of niche thing for casual players and people who are really into that technology, and I think it's going to be a nice little side thing that some gamers will try out and be like, yeah, this is kind of a nice thing, and you know, I'm all for trying it. I really want to see this thing. I think the controller looks really nice. You know, it kind of looks like the Switch Pro controller, but if the sticks were both at the bottom instead of staggered.
Yeah.
I think the YouTube functionality in this thing is something that, you know, I don't think we even thought of in the streaming technology. And like, hey, I'm watching the streamer. Oh, I really want to play this game, and all you have to do is hit the button on the controller, and you can instantly be playing with that person, or purchase the game and play it right then. You don't have to wait for downloads or patches or anything. Like, I think all that is super interesting. The one thing that I am concerned about is like, I was listening to the Giant Bombcast today, and they were talking about ownership of games. Growing up in the era that we did, owning games has always been a big thing for us, right? Until recently, where, you know, I know Jesse and I are mostly digital on a lot of things, but, you know, we still collect the Nintendo stuff. At least I do. You know, I still like seeing the boxes on my shelf and everything, and that I have that ownership of that cartridge or that disc. Whereas in Project Stream, like, you don't own anything. You know, you don't, or Stadia, I guess. You don't own it, right? Like, you're purchasing the license to use it. But, you know, when a game goes away from the Microsoft Store, you can still download it because you bought it, right? Whereas in Stadia, like, if that game goes off the store because of licensing reasons, or maybe that company just doesn't want that game on the store anymore,
Yes.
you really can't play it anymore, right? Like, it's because you're not downloading it, you didn't purchase it, it's not in your queue. Like, they're not going to keep the game on their servers because, you know, they don't have the license to the game anymore. So what happens to that? You know, that's like the one concern I have right now, besides like availability and you know, internet and everything. Like, all the internet download speeds aside, like, that's like the one thing I see in this, like, being kind of a downside.
Well, the thing about it that you bring up with the license thing, that's completely for any system at this time when it deals with digital.
I know,
because,
but
you said
the Activision, like the Marvel games from Activision, right?
Yeah,
they're not on the store anymore. But I can, if I had already purchased the games while they were on the store, I can go to my, you know, like, PlayStation does a good job of saying, I've purchased these games, right? And you can go to your library and pick those. And yeah, Xbox has the games that you've purchased too in a separate list from the games that you have installed, right? And you just go to that list, and even if it's not available on the store, it says that you purchased it. You just click on it and click install
and download it. Okay.
Yeah, where in Stadia, like, that doesn't exist because you know.
Yeah, and see, I thought that if they take the license off, if they took the game off like PSN or Xbox or the eShop, that you couldn't re-download it or anything. But you're saying that once you buy it, it literally is yours. All you got to do is just continually re-download it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, there's been extremely rare exceptions to that, like PT obviously is like the glaring example of that. But you know, that's like the one downside is, like, if you purchase Assassin's Creed Odyssey through Stadia and Ubisoft decides that they don't want to sell the game on Stadia anymore and they pull it off, like, was that a waste of $60? Or is this like a Game Pass type subscription thing where, like, all these games are available on this thing and, like, you're just paying a subscription service? These are the things that they didn't really answer, was like pricing structure, download and upload speeds, which I think some of it's come out since then in terms of internet speeds. But
yeah, 25 gigabytes is recommended. It's not required, but it's recommended.
So yeah, for it. And so, you know, and another thing too, in a lot of parts of the country, there's data caps Like, how does that affect data caps? And you know, I think the one thing that I think Google has going for it is like, what show? There's a podcast I was listening to that made a really good it might have been Podcast Beyond, actually, where they were talking about people who have come out with streaming services before. It's like cars.
They've been talking
cars versus the highway, right?
Uh-huh.
Where like a lot of these people have produced a car, but there's no highway to drive the car on, so they kind of fail. Whereas Google is building the car and the highway with Google Fiber, right? And as Google Fiber becomes more prevalent in other areas of the country, that'll make it easier for Stadia. So like, you know, Google is building the infrastructure for Stadia, and as Google Fiber becomes more prevalent throughout the country, or, you know, gig internet, or, you know, whatever you're looking at, like Stadia is going to work better because Google is making the infrastructure for Stadia to work, right?
Yeah.
Plus, they have more information centers around the country than anybody else. They have, you know, more resources, more money than any other company. And like the only other company I could see rivaling them right now is Microsoft. And if Apple decided to jump in, but I don't see Apple doing really anything.
And to give everybody preference, also, Google is using their own server. Like, they're doing everything. So there's no way for you to cheat or anything. Because if you try to cheat, Google is going to know about it.
Yeah, that's the other thing, too, is like, you can't install mods or cheat engine systems because, like, the game's not on your system. It's on Google's system.
Which is kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Jesse, I'm gonna turn it over to you and get your thoughts on what you think about Stadia.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So like I like Corey did listen to the Giant Bomb podcast where they talked about it extensively, and so I just listened to it tonight at work. So I've got a lot of the stuff that they kind of really dug deep into, like fresh on my mind. So like a lot of, you know, I have my own opinions, but like, you know, it's very similar to a lot of the ways that they had thought. Like it is kind of scary, the whole idea of like, you know, like not actually being able to own, like, you know, like actually own something that you've downloaded and stuff like that. But I think in the long run, or like even maybe hopefully off the bat, like that will be a way for them to maybe like have competing, you know, prices where like I still think you're gonna have to pay for a game, but I could see where like what they would possibly do is like what if they were to do like a whole like have it where you could you know, pay the $60 or whatever it costs for a game, and you could play it through, you know, through them without any kind of like subscription or whatever to it. But if you actually buy like, you know, like what we would pay for for the Xbox Live or whatever, like then you would only have to pay like $4.99 to buy a game or something like that.
Like a discount.
What else? I mean,
yeah, like like it would be like you wouldn't really pay much for a game that way, but you could choose to not have to pay monthly to play games on their thing, but you would have to pay full price for the game, because then, you know, like they still got to pay to have, you know, like pay to have those games on their, you know, on their thing. Well, like this is just an idea. You know, like that's the thing. We really don't know what their what their plan is going to be for that whole part of it. But
and I think one of this is the thing about that idea, which would be fine if it worked, but I think because we got stuff like Humble Bundle, we got stuff like Epic and Steam, if they're already and this is not for Google's first party, I'm just talking about third party. If they're offering a cheaper alternative where you don't have to subscribe to get that discount for to play that game on Stadia, I think consumers and mostly PC players, because I feel like this is more for PC than console. I think they will go that route to the other people, the other services, and buy it there for cheaper. And like you said, Corey, be able to own that digital version of it. Now, I will say that if Stadia offers a bigger discount for it than the other two,
which they
then, I can see that happen.
which they can because they're Google and they have the because like to like Microsoft and unlike PlayStation and Nintendo. Well, I guess Sony has other revenue streams, but like they have other ways of making money, like through ads or through YouTube, or they have multiple avenues of making money, so they can be really aggressive at getting these deals out there. Like they can lose money getting people in. They can sacrifice that money to get people in to use their service because they're Google and they have that money and that infrastructure, right? And so
they'll be able to recoup it sometime down the line.
Yeah, which is something that I think Microsoft can actually rival them on because Microsoft is a services-based company in terms of like outside of Xbox you have the Microsoft Office suite, you have the Bing, you have Internet Explorer doing or whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called now. Edge. I don't know. They like
it's Internet Explorer still.
Yeah, Edge though it's called.
Okay.
You have Skype, and then you have the Xbox division where you have Xbox Live, Game Pass. They have a bunch of subscription service stuff because Microsoft is a subscription-based company. So I think Microsoft could actually like rival Google in doing this, but like I said before, Google has the infrastructure, they have the data centers, and they have multiple revenue streams coming in to where they could take a loss on Stadia for half a decade just to get people in to use their system and make these deals where, hey, Assassin's Creed Odyssey will cost $60 on Xbox and PlayStation, but it might cost $40 on Stadia because Google can eat that cost, they can eat the 30% that it would cost, Ubisoft to put it on their platform just to get the game on the platform. Plus they don't have to provide retail discs, boxes, retail space, like you said, Ed, where all these other companies need a lot of Jesse and I download the games off the store, but a lot of people still buy physical, and you don't have to pay for the trucks to drive the stuff to the store. You don't have to pay to press discs. You don't have to pay for the cover art on the boxes, right? And so that's going to save them a ton of money too. The only thing is like, how are they going to pay for the server space is the new question, right? Which Google can eat that cost too for the first 3 to 5 years.
And I'm gonna give it back to you, Jesse. I feel like with Stadia, there's something about a new Chromecast or a new Chrome kind of like laptop or something that's going to be coming with Stadia.
I think they announced a Stadia branded Chromecast.
Chrome. Okay.
I mean, you can use any Chromecast, but like I know the 4K or the Chromecast Ultra 4K is like $70. I saw that going around, and it's actually like on sale right now.
Okay. I just feel like that's going to be attached when they actually roll it out. They're going to be trying to get multiple like laptops and stuff.
It'd be awesome if you hooked your Ouya up. You could actually play Stadia on your Ouya.
Oh shit! Somebody's going to mod that for that to happen.
You don't need to mod it. It runs on Android.
Oh, that is true. But I'm gonna give it back to you. Oh wow, that is true. I forgot all about that. But I'm gonna hand it back to you, Jesse, to get more thoughts. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so one of the other things that Giant Bomb kind of touches on too that will be kind of interesting is the whole idea of the format. So like I guess they're gonna be Linux based, and so like they kind of talked about So like like if Microsoft or like the Xbox version of it, the xCloud, like when they start making games, are they gonna have to try to build games that can work on both Linux and Microsoft, like like to try to compete, to be able to because like if you can't play the Xbox Microsoft games on a Linux thing, like that will restrict people from like being like what things you can play their games on, like moving forward, with the whole idea of being able to play the the Xbox games on any device. So that would be like anything that's Linux based obviously wouldn't be able to play their games. Is kind of like an idea that they had somewhat talked about. Like that kind of stuff will kind of be interesting, just to see if like if there's something like along those lines that ends up having to happen, as far as like like how Microsoft would compete, if that would if that's something that they would look into, like having to change or look at. So like like that's the thing, like where like there's so much to figure out. But like the one thing that I have to say though about this in general, and it's a little bit different. I'm kind of a little bit different than how Corey thinks about it. I actually think that this literally is going to be the future of gaming. So anyone who doesn't like like take this, like start looking into this and building their like what the direction that they're going towards this way is gonna fall behind, I think.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I didn't say it wasn't gonna be the future of gaming. I just said it wasn't.
No.
I meant maybe I worded it poorly, but I just meant it wasn't gonna replace anything we're using right now. Like maybe in like a decade, I feel like this will be probably the main way we play games, but in the next like 3 to 4 years, like I don't really see it being the primary way we play.
Yeah. Okay. So
can I just say one more other thing?
Go ahead,
too,
Jesse.
kind of on what we like. I didn't really finish what I was like something I was talking about earlier. So like to kind of build on the the whole idea that I had of them doing the like where you have the subscription and then you would pay less for games. Like because like my idea, like my thought behind this is like I would look at it more of like Google's version of Steam, or Google's version of like Microsoft Store or whatever. Like it would be like you don't have to pay monthly to play games through Steam or buy games through Steam. Like so like that would kind of be, and then their monthly service that would be more like the Xbox Live would because they're not actually having to produce physical copies, like they would be able to give you at a discounted price.
It'd probably be like Google Play in a sense.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Another thing too is like,
well, before you guys go, can I state something? Sorry. I don't think this is the future of game. And one of the reasons I don't believe it is because of this system has to rely on the internet. And I think there is going to be a long way before universally that the internet speeds and connections and stuff get up to where Google wants it to be at. Google Fiber would be fine, but they really have to roll that out. For me personally, I wouldn't do streaming on a PC. I would rather do it on a console because there's something more reliable than a console. And for like PC players, you kind of have to keep upgrading your system or your rig, whatever you feel like you want to do it. When I was watching it, I felt like this is not speaking to me. I'm sitting on the sideline watching this, but it's not speaking to me because the 4K doesn't impress me. The 60 frames per second don't impress me. The HDR don't impress me because there's been so much talk about that, and games are still not there yet. People are still using 30 frames per second, or you have a choice that you have to sacrifice one or the other. And you still got to buy like a TV, a monitor, and all this stuff to really display all of those things. So when is it going to be fully noted that, okay, if you take away the 4K, you take away the HDR, you take away the 60 frames per second for games and stuff, what are you going to offer? If that's not, because I just don't rely on that anymore.
It's the convenience though. Like I think the thing that Stadia has going for it that, you know, OnLive or some of these other previous streaming services didn't have is, you know, the Netflix effect, where like Netflix is never going to be the quality of a Blu-ray or a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray or anything, but it's good enough and it's convenient, right? And I think we now live in a culture where, you know, a lot of people think just good enough is just good enough for them, right? Where if you can get it there, like for me, I think 1080p and like I think Stadia is going to prioritize frame rate over resolution. Like I just think it's going to. So I think if you can get it at 1080p and 60 frames a second, regardless of HDR or whatever, or even on your phone where it's going to probably be locked at 720p.
Yeah.
Like, I think the idea of being able to play your game on your TV and then moving it to your phone and keep playing on the bus or whatever, it's what the Switch does, right? But like just through the internet, I think people are going to be like, that's good enough. And 90% players that are going to play Stadia probably won't care about HDR or 4K or getting the best possible resolution out of the thing. If it's good enough, they're going to try it.
First off, your phone isn't going to get 4K visuals anyway. So no one's like the majority of things you will be playing on aren't going to have 4K resolution anyway. So it's not that big of a deal.
But this is the thing. Don't market it that then.
Well, they're not. They're just saying you can get that if you have good enough internet.
But see, that's the problem. It's just that if you're going to speak about 4K HDR and 60 frames per second, just say across the board, or don't mention it at all, because if you know that not all stuff is going to carry that, and with the games that they're going to be bringing out, it's going to depend on what you're running it on.
But so do you just want the Xbox One X to say that too? Because it's the same situation where like not everybody's going to be able to play in 4K at 60 frames a second either.
Yeah, because,
but if you're not telling them that you can play at the best visual capacity, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
But the thing about it is,
like, that's what people want to hear, though, is they want to hear that the best looking visuals can be performed through this console.
But that's the problem, is that if you're going to mention it and then you get it, you have to make a choice. So why not just say that you have the ability to do 60 frames per second at 1080p, or you get to do 30 frames per second for 4K?
Because Stadia is more powerful than both consoles combined.
Right. And that's the thing.
You don't need to have a good PC to play it at that.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
TV.
That's the whole thing. Is like the system is running on that end, and they're just streaming the video to your TV. That's the whole thing.
Right.
It doesn't matter how powerful anything that you own is.
Right, but if you don't, but you just said convenience, right, Corey?
Yeah.
What if people don't have the money to get that convenience?
Then they don't need it.
And they don't want this, and they don't. Well, they don't have the money to get that convenience. I'm saying.
Then they don't get it. Like if you don't have the money, then you don't spend the money. Like that's just it. Like if you know, I still think getting into this is going to be a lot cheaper than getting an Xbox One or a PlayStation or even a Switch at this point. The controller will probably cost $60. A Chromecast a basic Chromecast you can probably find on Amazon for $25 to $30, right? That's
Pretty
less.
much.
That's less than $100. If you're gonna go out and buy an Xbox One S at this point in a game, you're gonna be spending over $200. That's half the price. And if it's just good enough and performs just as well as an Xbox One S, which doesn't do 4K, that's fine with 90% of the people out there who are casual gamers who just want to check out a game that because they heard about it through a podcast or saw ads running on something they were looking at, or they saw it at Best Buy and they saw a trailer that looked cool. If you can get Assassin's Creed Odyssey running and it's just good enough and I can play it on my phone in bed while I'm watching TV or something, that's perfectly fine with people.
Do you think that to me personally, Assassin's Creed Odyssey doesn't do nothing for it? I was talking
that's just the game they're leading with.
I was talking to my friend Jared from Irrational Passion. They got a podcast called Input, and I was talking to him on Twitter, and I was just like, what would have been better to sell everybody on this? I think they exclusively should have did something with Cyberpunk 2077. I think that alone would have sold people to be like, oh, let me look into this, because with those kind of visuals and stuff, if they Stadia could do those visuals at HDR 60 frames per second, and people were able to play that GDC, I think a lot of people would have been.
I think they should have shut it off with a shooter.
That game isn't probably even halfway done yet. So why would they do something that they can't even show off now?
Plus, they have a marketing deal with Microsoft. So if anybody's going to show their streaming service, it's going to be Microsoft with Cyberpunk, because they have that marketing deal with Microsoft.
With Microsoft. Okay, because I just thought that because of
here's
the way that
here's a perfect example.
Go ahead.
They showed Doom Eternal at this press conference, which is like, if you're gonna want to see a game at 4K 60 frames a second and a Twitch shooter, Doom is the game you're gonna show off, right? And they showed it running. And granted, whatever we were watching the stream on, like I watched it on my phone, like whatever, you're not gonna see the 4K HDR, but I did see the 60 frames a second, and it was running fairly well, and if you can just show people that it's running, that it works, it's going to get better, right? We also live in an era where, if something isn't how we need it to be at launch, they iterate on it and iterate on it and iterate on it. And I know this isn't the same type of thing, but stick with me, right? No Man's Sky, right?
Yes. Terrible
reception at launch. But they built on it, and they built on it, and they added stuff to it. And now look at the game, right? It's almost where, like, quote unquote expectation was, and the community has given them the benefit of the doubt, and they've stuck with it, and things get better over time, right? And
yes.
I think Destiny was in the same situation. I think Anthem is currently going through that situation right now, where if we can just show that this is good enough as like the skeleton of this infrastructure and this system and the things we want to do with it, if we can just show people that it works and we have the skeleton here and it's just good enough, 5 years from now, are we going to be able to see 4K like just like that? Are we going to be able to play the next Call of Duty multiplayer games on this thing? Are we going to see 8K streaming at some point? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if they just build on it and they show that it works and they just are transparent about what they're doing and the technology behind it and what they want to do with it, and if they are just open with their audience, I think that in 5 years, Stadia could be big, right? Or Project xCloud could be big, right? If they just, you know what I mean? Like, they just got to get that initial run out there and say
it's a learning experience.
And the thing about it, well, for me, is I think it's going to be within 2 years, because I think within 2 more years, 4K in HDR is going to be the standard. It's going to be cheap enough that people could go and buy a 19-inch 4K HDR for like $150 some from Sony or Philips or whatever.
19 inches. Who's playing on a 19-inch TV?
Hey, some people got to. Hey, some people got a budget. Okay, you got to budget what you play on. I'm just saying. Uh, but the thing.
You can get a 55 HDR 4K TV right now from Vizio for like $360.
Well, yeah. But I mean, there's some people who are brand, you know,
Ed, all you got to do is take those
yeah.
posters off your wall and put a wall mount up there, and you'll be good to go.
Oh no.
besides Vizio,
Wait, why are
Vizio,
you saying
people need to.
why are you making this about me? Sorry, Jesse.
I'm just saying, I can see posters behind you, and if you just put a wall mount up there and a huge TV, you'll be good to go. You just lean back and be like,
That means I had to turn around to go play.
Hey.
No, but I'm just saying, like, for the standard, for 4K HDR, I think within 2 years, it'll be more widely available at a cheaper price. And the people are probably started to move it to 4K now, as long as TVs get a little bit cheaper. Now, how this affects Microsoft? Let's get into that. Because I think we all three have our individual viewpoints of what we think about Stadia. And I think we all are just willing to get more information for it. Want to see how things roll out, what the pricing is going to be, what's their actual structure.
well, they're gonna. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I still think that E3 is going to be a big presence. They need to make something known at E3, because if they do it, I think if they do it too late in the fall, there's Tokyo Game Show. There's I think Xbox is doing their own conference like they did last year. What's the one in Germany? The Gamescom. Like, all of that stuff is going to be coming, and people are going to be focusing on that. And if Google is not there to make anything known or something, people are going to kind of forget about it and just be like, oh, okay. Or they'll wait for a stream and stuff and be like, oh, I guess.
Well, I hear there's a Monday night slot that just opened up a couple months ago when Company X pulled out and said they weren't doing E3 this year. So.
Well, they could.
They did.
Google.
I mean, Google's big enough to where they can kind of do their own thing, like they did this week, right? Where, they did say they're going to announce
YouTube.
Yeah. They did say they're going to do their own thing in June, or they're going to have more information in June. But what this means for Microsoft is, like, they have to come out at E3 and they need to find a way to deliver the same type of information that Google delivered, but one up them somehow and be like, pricing. They need to say, hey, Game Pass works with xCloud or something. Like, they need to come out because, like, unlike Google, Microsoft has a fan base already. Microsoft has Game Pass. Microsoft has an established first party. Microsoft bought 9 studios last year. So like they have something that Google doesn't have already, which is a fan base and studios and games, right? And so if they can figure out how to message it, which I think, Phil Spencer has done a fantastic job the last few years of really communicating things, and I know a lot of people were kind of blowing out of proportion where Google didn't have any big surprises, right? But I think what Phil Spencer was saying, if you read the whole thing instead of just the headline, like, I think he was saying, like, it was something that they've been working on too the last 3 or 4 years, and that everything that Google is doing is what they're trying to do. And so there's no big surprise there because, they can have YouTube integration, but Google wants to stream to YouTube. Microsoft wants to stream to Mixer, right? There's a lot of parallels in what Microsoft is doing to what Google just showed us, right? Microsoft has their Mixer influencers. They have, all sorts of things they have, Cortana instead of the Google Assistant, right? They have all these parallels to where they could actually make this work. And if, as long as they're like, running, side by side with Google, on these announcements, I think they'll already still be a step ahead in a lot of ways because of how established Xbox is as a brand. So
there's more of a trust factor with Microsoft than there is with Google,
especially with their messaging and leadership too. You know.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jesse.
And Google messed up and picked the lower form of controller.
well, just want to say this about Stadia before we get continue with Microsoft, is that Stadia was speaking more to developers because it is the game GDC, but the messaging came different to consumers and viewers who are looking into it. So it's kind of weird on how the messaging is got across. So that's why I feel like, all that 4K stuff is not important, because we've been to E3. We heard people talk all about this, and then it comes out different when those systems come out. So it's not surprising that they would mention stuff like that. Developers, I think when they spoke to them, like, and all this functionality stuff, this is supposed to entice them and get them interested to be like, hey, we offering this stuff. We got this thing for you developers. Come to our platform and we could work some kind of business deal out. Where Microsoft is that when they're doing E3, they're speaking to a lot of gamers because we're all watching it and expecting something great. So that's going to come to the platform that we're going to buy in the future. So Jesse, I'm going to give it over to you. How do you think this is going to affect Microsoft or Project xCloud or anything like that?
Okay, well, first off, I'm going to bring up what I had, kind of talked to you about that no one has talked about. I think it's probably because I'm kind of ahead of, thinking ahead of where everyone's at right now. But I honestly think that this, once Project xCloud is a thing, and it's it's out there, people can use it. I think one of the things that Microsoft is probably going to want to do is they're going to have to, I honestly think that they're going to have to start looking into doing the VR stuff, because so it's Sony, PlayStation is doing really well with the VR stuff, and because it's such a affordable way to play it, and like I had said to you, right now, with the idea of the xCloud, and you not having to have a massive powerful PC and all that stuff to play games, that means that ideally, if xCloud's running right now and they had a VR game, I could essentially buy the $30 Google headset to put my phone in, and next thing you know, I'm playing in a VR game in 1080p 60 frames per second, or whatever, however fast they want to put it at, to make it completely smooth. And all I had to do was spend $30 for a headset, and I'm able to place something at the same resolution as what the whatever the bigger headsets would be, because we're getting to the point now where the the HDR and stuff and phone screens and all that stuff is going to be a thing eventually. And so it's going to get to the point where you really wouldn't have to spend any money to be able to play games like that, with the idea of being able to stream to anything. So I think that's not anytime soon, but I think in the future that's going to be an easy, accessible option. And so I think stuff like that may be something that would have, you know, a department that Microsoft might need to change their outlook on, just because of the fact that it would be so easily accessible for a very, very cheap price to be able to play something like that. Because like that's the problem right now. The issue with playing good VR games is it's very pricey, and that's why Sony is killing it, because they've got a cheaper alternative to it, and that's why a lot of people will get it, and that's why they can make better games on Sony for VR than on PC, because more people are playing it. So there's a guarantee that people will buy that game, so they're not afraid to put money into making a game for it.
Well,
you know,
I think with PSVR is that they actually made that they're starting to make their equipment a little bit cheaper for people to pick up and buy, because you can see a lot of people be like, oh, PSVR is on sale for $150. So people are be like, when it's on sale, people are going there to get that sale. And now there are games coming to it that you can really list off, like Astrobot, Tetris Effect, Resident Evil 7, Moss. Like there's stuff that you could rattle off. And just like you said, Corey, earlier, that, you know, working on it, getting it, you know, progressing it, and trying to, you know, fine tune this stuff, getting it better. And I think that's what happened with PSVR. Some people still have their judgment on it, but it's been growing in popularity now because it's been more affordable, and there's been great games coming out.
So imagine you've already got your phone. Imagine only having to spend a couple of bucks to get, you know, the things to put your phone into to be able to play, you know, VR. I mean, it makes it so easily accessible for such a low price that like I ultimately think that's, if anything's gonna make VR become a bigger thing in the gaming world, it's gonna be at that point when anyone can play it for very cheap, because all they need is what they've already have. So, you know, like I think that's going to be something, you know, and that Microsoft might have to change, like I said, just because of those possibilities. And if they choose to keep on ignoring it, then that, you know, it will just be a bad move, you know, eventually.
I think Project xCloud is going to be connected to Xbox Live. I think right now Microsoft don't have to worry about Stadia and stuff like that, because I think Microsoft kind of offers the best service at the moment. We mentioned Game Pass, but you know, we have the Play with Anywhere initiative. We got you know, probably when they get their Xbox One, the streaming one, where I mean it's diskless, but if you want to do like a Game Pass attached to it, if they offer that for $120 some, you get the system, Game Pass, and Xbox Live all together for a year and stuff.
I think what you're saying is like Google has to play catch up in all those areas.
Yeah,
and Microsoft's already like. I mean, they've been building the groundwork for a couple years now in terms of like Game Pass and Xbox Live for over a decade, right? Like they're just there, and like I think with xCloud, and if you don't own an Xbox or whatever, and like the Play Anywhere initiative is great, and the Game Pass coming to PC and Xbox is also great, and you know, rumored Switch or whatever, but I think you're gonna see bundles for all this in one bundle for like, you know, $150 a year, or, you know, I don't know if they want to go much over that, but like I think you're going to start seeing these things bundled together, and maybe they don't offer it like in a yearly subscription. I mean, you could probably buy it as a year subscription, but they'll be like for, you know, $25 a month you'll be able to stream Game Pass games and xCloud and everything to any device that you own for $25 a month.
And then you also have the Xbox Adaptive. So that's more for the kids who are disabled and who are playing in the hospital. If they could find this as an alternative, this Project xCloud over Stadia, that's more win that's more good business for Microsoft
Yeah.
in their in their kind of market.
I do think
Where go ahead.
I do think Google said that they will support the Microsoft Adaptive Controller, but you have to have the Stadia controller like plugged into it, but it'll still read the adaptive controller. So
Yeah. Yeah, their whole idea with their controller and stuff, I think, was that you could use any other controller with it, but it would have to be wired in or something like that. And then their controller is unique in that it connects actually to Wi-Fi. It doesn't actually use Bluetooth. It connects through Wi-Fi. So to reduce any kind of lag and functionality, I guess. So
Then that put a risk on y'all. Got to pay your internet bill, and you better hope that the internet is not down.
Then you're not going to play at all anyways, so it doesn't matter.
I mean, but since that controller is connected to the Wi-Fi, if those problems exist, you can't play. You can't play anything on Stadia unless they allow you to play the USB or something. If
the internet's down, you won't be able to play regardless. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
And like,
true.
I know people are like kind of complaining about like the internet thing too, is like always having to be connected. But like in terms of Xbox players, look at the games we're playing anyway. That The Division, Destiny, Anthem, Apex, Fortnite. What's one thing all these games have in common?
They're all internet.
Yeah.
Internet.
Call of Duty. Even single player games to a point need to be connected to the internet now. Like, The Witcher has had so many patches, right? And if you were to install that game off the disc and never connect to the internet, you're going to be playing a totally different game to somebody who has all the patches, right? So,
and that's another thing they talked about on Giant Bomb that we didn't touch on, is like the whole idea that you never have to patch a game because it's always patched.
Yeah, that too.
Because it's on the patches on the server. You never have to wait for your system to update or for the game to update in order to be able to play it, because that's already done like instantly. It's like that's all taken care of on their side, so you never have to wait. You'll never have to wait for a game to update ever again. There's a lot of cool things that we don't realize that we have to worry about now, because we're just so used to it that we'll never have to worry about again, like stuff like that. Like you won't have to worry, certain things for your systems to update because it just plays through a browser.
And I think that's when we'll see if new games come out on console and on PC, how each is going to play out. Because let's take the next Call of Duty. If Stadia's up and running and they're getting it, if it's being on Steam, Epic, if it's being on consoles, everybody, I guess the assumption is that Stadia is going to be the fastest to play, because it just seems like you go to Stadia, Call of Duty 4 or Call of Duty 5 is up there, you click on it and then it starts instant, where regardless if you pre-purchase it digitally or you inserted the disc in, it's going to take a while to do all the patches and update installs.
Yeah.
But
it's going to be interesting. I think,
yes.
I think Stadia and xCloud are like massive steps to
the future.
Yeah, this is something we've never seen before. This is a tide shifting event in gaming right now. And we don't know the outcome of it yet, but it's still like, it's scary. Like, I'm going to admit it, it's scary. Like, always being connected to the internet to play your games is scary, but the more and more I think about it, and the more and more, let's take Destiny again for an example.
Yeah.
You're always connected, and, once those servers go away, that game is useless. You can't play it Like, unless somebody crops up a private server somewhere to play these games, like you're not going to be able to play these games anymore. And sadly, that's the reality of gaming that we live in now. And like, there's clear exceptions. Like anything Nintendo based, you're going to be able to play forever as long as you have a working copy or a working disc or whatever. Which Giant Bomb brought that up again too, was like disc deterioration and stuff. But that's a different story for a different day. And like I'm really actually worried about GameCube now because like there's literally no other way to play any of those GameCube games unless you buy like the 3DS ports. But like,
yeah,
I mean, it's just moving in that direction now, and like it's just the next evolution of gaming, and we're always connected anyway. So like, I guess as long as your internet's good, this is what's gonna happen, right? And we just gotta either just have to, you can be scared, or you can just take a deep breath and jump in. And that's, out of all of us here, like I'm scared to death, like of not being able to download our own games, right? But like, I want to see this technology, and I'm just gonna jump in, when this controller comes out, or if there's like a Chromecast Stadia controller bundle out there, I'm gonna buy it, and I want to see what it's like. Is Stadia gonna replace my Xbox or my Switch? No, at least not at the moment. But like, the technology is super interesting, and I'll purchase a couple games on there to see how it works.
And I think for me, like I said, sitting on the sideline, I just want to see Google support this. Corey, me and you talked about this on Power Block. We were just like, all that stuff is good, but we want to see your first party games. I don't really care about third or indie, because I'm like, with third or indie, I could play that anywhere on any other console at this point in time.
Like, I mean, they're making the right moves in that direction though too, right? They have Stadia Games and Entertainment. Jade Raymond is heading that studio. They've got a lot of great talent over the last few years working there. They're going to explore the price ranges and styles of games, right? And I think Google's made all the right moves to say we're supporting this for the long haul, right? They've made partnerships at least with Ubisoft and id, and they opened a first party studio, which is a huge thing, right? So.
And that's what I want to see, is their first party, because that's something that I won't be able to play anywhere if that first party stuff is interesting.
Well, and again, like, I know it might not matter to you, Ed, but just for the fact that they can say that you're gonna be able to play these games on what the best of the best PC could offer for you for graphics and all that stuff, and this is where you're going to be able to play it without having to own a super expensive PC is kind of a big deal.
Well, and to me,
like,
it's just
they could ultimately be the place where you can play the best looking version of that game.
Like, for me, it's marketing speech, and I heard it many times everywhere, and it just doesn't seem that with the stuff that actually come out, it's not fully there yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of questions. There's still a ton of questions, and before this thing comes out, hopefully they'll have these questions answered. But I think, in terms of a presentation, in terms of what they wanted, like a point to get across. Now, granted, this was at GDC. This presentation was for the developers, and like what the potential of this thing could do in terms of streaming and YouTube integration, in terms of instant purchasing and like that kind of thing. Like these messages were all great in terms of a development standpoint. When they come back in June, they better have something for the consumers. But I think this presentation was like honestly one of the best first steps I think I've seen, right? Which, the reveal of the original Xbox was Bill Gates holding a controller with The Rock holding the system, right? Like, that was like, that was just, man, the early 2000s was a time.
And that's why I said that we as the consumers are taking it differently because we're not developers. So the information that you're relying to a developer is not the same information that you're relying to us. We expect more because we're the ones that's going to be paying out of pocket for this, not the developers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's important that the messages and stuff gets out. So, but everybody, that is going to be the show. We kind of want to hear what you guys think about Stadia, what you think about Project xCloud. Is this going to affect Microsoft? We want to know what you guys think. You can email the show at arsenalxpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at arsenalx podcast. You can find us on our YouTube page, Arsenal X Xbox channel, and you can join our Facebook group, Arsenal X fan group page, if that's the thing. I forgot. I didn't write it down. Jesse, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at PhantomMaggotAX.
Corey, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at CoreyNHT713. I'm just going to keep it short this week.
Yes. And you guys can find me on Twitter at ThatRetroCode. And yes, everybody, the DMC Devil May Cry 5 review is up. So if you guys want to read it, go to ngrradio.com. But for the last thing, everybody, we're going to throw up the X one more time.
Throwing it up right now, guys.
Yes. And we're throwing it down because we're exiting out of here. We will see you guys next time for Arsenal X Podcast. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.